Hello, welcome to a series of lectures on early modern philosophy called The Age of Reason. I have multiple channels. I have a daily philosophy channel, which is more about documentaries. I'm also doing something called the Every Dawn channel. There we have book reviews and inspirational philosophy. And here now on this channel, I want to go more into lecture-style content, to take a whole period and then explain it in a little more detail, but not to be tedious, but instead to try and make it a little more interesting, something that you would like to watch. So although it's based on university lectures, it is not really a lecturing style which will put you to sleep, I hope, and we will concentrate only on the highlights of the history of philosophy and leave out all the boring bits. So in this series we are talking about early modern philosophy. It's called The Age of Reason. And this is a period of philosophy that goes from roughly the 1600s to the 1800s. It begins with Descartes, who was the philosopher who started modern philosophy by asking a very fundamental question: what can we know about the world? What can we be certain of? And if, we were deceived, or if our senses were not reliable, is there anything that we could still say with certainty? And then from there he tries to reconstruct everything that we know. This does not quite work out for Descartes, but later many others were inspired by his ideas, and we will see how this developed. After Descartes, we have Spinoza, for example, whom we will talk about also, who was also, as we call it, a rationalist. You will see later what this means. And then we have Leibniz. And these are all people who think that by using our mental faculties alone, we can actually discover the truth of the world, the truth of the universe. But there always has been a second camp to this discussion, not only those who believe that our brains are able by themselves, with the help of God perhaps, to understand the world, but there was always this second faction, the people who thought that it's our senses that give us knowledge about the world, the only valid knowledge about the world. And without our senses, we wouldn't know anything. And everything we know comes from the senses. And these are called the empiricists. And the empiricists are primarily in England, in English-speaking spaces, while the rationalists are more on the continent of Europe. And this is why from rationalism later developed continental philosophy, while from empiricism developed in the 20th century analytic philosophy. So you see that this early time is not just, old philosophy, something that does not concern us today, but it was vital to create the philosophy of today. And in many ways, today's philosophy is still just an extension of this early modern philosophy. In this similar way, like early modern philosophy itself is an extension of ancient philosophy, and we will talk about this a little bit later. And now in this empiricist camp, we have John Locke, we have David Hume, we have Berkeley, who is kind of the odd one in there. And these two different lines, which we can trace through all of this early modern philosophy, converge and meet with Kant. And Immanuel Kant, German philosopher, synthesizes these two camps in a way. He brings them together, and he finds a more unified explanation for how we perceive the world. And we will see all of that later, so let's begin and see what we can learn about early modern philosophy. And in the next video, we will be talking about how early modern philosophy is related to its roots in ancient Greek philosophy. See you there.